Before Austria, Lando Norris, McLaren's lead driver, Ferrari's closest competitor, said something that should have been a warning sign. He said that with a better power unit, Ferrari would embarrass the rest of the field. He called the SF26 the class of the field. That was Friday morning. By Sunday afternoon, Lewis Hamilton was 5th. Charles Leclerc was 8th. George Russell won by managing his tyres on a circuit Ferrari had just introduced a brand new engine to. And here is what nobody in the coverage is actually explaining. The ADUO upgrade Ferrari brought to Austria did not fail. It may have worked exactly as designed. What it did was expose a second, completely separate problem. One that does not disappear at Silverstone. One that, according to Hamilton himself, follows the car down every single straight. To understand what happened at the Red Bull Ring, you need to understand what Ferrari actually brought there and why. ADUO, the FIA's equalization mechanism for 2026, ranks every power unit in Formula One at the end of each assessment period. After the first 5 races, the FIA found Ferrari's internal combustion engine more than 4% below the benchmark. That benchmark, controversially, is Red Bull's Ford power unit, not Mercedes, which is dominating the season. Ferrari, sitting 4% back, was given 2 upgrade tokens. They used the first one in Austria. The upgrade involved a new steel alloy cylinder head, replacing the traditional aluminium, which allows Ferrari's engineers to run combustion chamber temperatures at 110 degrees Celsius instead of the previous ceiling of 100 degrees, a 10-degree increase. Combined with a redesigned Shell fuel formula with higher calorific value, the idea is to burn more particles per combustion cycle and extract more mechanical work from the same amount of fuel. It is not a dramatic fix. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, said before the race that they were not expecting a magic bullet. What they were expecting was a measurable step. Here is the part that nobody is contextualizing correctly. Hamilton said after qualifying that on Friday, Ferrari was 0.6 of a second down in straight-line speed alone. 0.6, just on the straights, before the corners even happened. That number matters because Austria is not a complicated circuit for Ferrari. The Red Bull Ring is short. It is power sensitive. Over 60% of every lap is spent at full throttle, and at altitude, in the Styrian Hills, turbochargers are under additional strain. Ferrari knew walking in that this was their worst-case scenario. They brought the upgrade anyway because the upgrade window is narrow and the calendar does not wait. What they discovered over race distance was something their telemetry had not fully predicted. And understanding what that thing is, specifically, is what changes everything about how you read the next 6 races. Hamilton's words after the race deserve to be read carefully, not summarized. He said, "The rears dropped off on every single stint. The car's balance was, in his words, very open and very difficult." But then he said something that the coverage largely skipped past. He said, "It is not necessarily so much about power, because when you come out of the corner, you feel like you have the grunt. But it is deployment at the end. Ours tails off. Particularly compared to Mercedes, they just keep going." That distinction is the entire story. There are 2 different things that can make a Formula One car slow on a straight. The first is raw internal combustion power, the ICE output, which is exactly what the ADUO upgrade was designed to address. Ferrari improved that. The second is ERS deployment, the energy recovery system that takes stored electrical energy and releases it through the MGU-K motor to add power on top of the ICE output. And the ERS does not deploy evenly. Teams manage deployment curves, front-loading it off the corner exit or spreading it across the full straight, depending on circuit demands. What Hamilton is describing is an ERS deployment profile that exhausts its energy before the end of the straight. While Mercedes keeps adding electrical power all the way to the braking zone, Ferrari's curve goes flat. The result looks like a power deficit, But the ADUO upgrade did not and could not fix it, because ADUO covers the internal combustion engine only. The ERS deployment strategy is a separate system, a separate problem, and Ferrari does not have another ADUO token that covers it. The engineers who looked at that data on Sunday evening were not dealing with a failed upgrade. They were dealing with confirmation that they have two problems, not one. Here is what this means that almost no one is saying out loud. Ferrari's second ADUO upgrade, the one that will actually deliver the bigger power step, is a new turbocharger. Redesigned blade angles, new materials, an impeller built to address the core ICE deficit. That upgrade is not coming to Silverstone. It is not coming to Hungary or Belgium. Ferrari's own engineers and Motorsport.com's technical team have placed it at Zandvoort or possibly Monza after the summer break. That is 6 or 7 race weekends away, and Silverstone is next week. The circuit Hamilton is heading to is not a power circuit in the way Austria was. It has maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, high-speed corners where downforce and chassis balance decide lap time. Hamilton has won at Silverstone 9 times. No driver in history has won there more. The SF26's chassis is, by Lando Norris's own description, the class of the field. There are real reasons to think Hamilton can be competitive there. But Silverstone also has the Hangar Straight. It has Wellington Straight, Stowe and Brooklands at the end of long full-throttle runs. The ERS deployment problem that ruined Austria does not go away because the circuit is different. It follows the car. Hamilton said it himself. Lots of straights, unfortunately. Fred Vasseur told the Austrian press that Ferrari had not done enough race preparation after a difficult Friday, that the team had perhaps been too focused on trying to stay with Mercedes early in the race. What Vasseur did not say, and what Hamilton's specific technical language makes clear, is that the preparation problem and the straight line problem are two different problems. One is a race weekend execution issue. The other is a hardware limitation that the calendar does not give Ferrari time to fix before Silverstone. The fair counter-argument is this. Barcelona happened, and Barcelona was real. Hamilton brought Ferrari its first win in 34 races. He managed tyres that nobody else could manage. He used a virtual safety car opportunity perfectly. The SF26 was, on that Sunday, genuinely faster than the Mercedes in race trim, and Hamilton drove it at a level that reminded the paddock why he has 105 career victories. George Russell was in the same car Hamilton left behind, and Russell finished second. The pace was there. The counter-argument continues. Silverstone is Hamilton's circuit. 9 wins. The crowd. The psychological weight of a home race in Ferrari red, chasing a record 8th World Championship. These are not nothing. The last time a driver with Hamilton's historical dominance at a specific circuit arrived with a legitimate championship contender car, the circuit delivered. Canada 2019, Bahrain 2019. The home track advantage is real and measurable. Here is why the counter-argument does not hold for a title fight. Barcelona was not a power-sensitive circuit in the way Austria and Silverstone are. Barcelona has the long straights of the Circuit de Catalunya, yes, but the altitude does not stress the turbo the same way. The race was affected by a safety car that compressed the field, and Hamilton's extraordinary tyre management masked the deployment issue in a way that one-stop strategies on degradation-heavy circuits sometimes allow. Silverstone, on a dry track in July heat, with George Russell in peak form after Austria, is not Barcelona. Russell is now only 40 points behind championship leader Kimi Antonelli. He is motivated, he is fast, he wants this race badly. Hamilton can win at Silverstone. The SF26 is capable of it. But the championship is not decided by whether Hamilton can win. It is decided by how many points he closes per race, and Austria cost him the momentum Barcelona built. Step back from Austria for a moment and look at what the mathematics of this season actually say. Hamilton came into the Austrian weekend sitting second in the Drivers' Championship, 46 points behind Kimi Antonelli. He had just won in Barcelona. The momentum was real. Ferrari was competitive. The question the championship was asking was not whether Hamilton could win the title, it was how quickly the gap could close. He left Austria in third. 46 points behind the leader is now the number behind Antonelli again, but now with Russell between them. Russell, who closed 10 points on Antonelli by winning, and who is only 40 points back himself. The championship picture has not just stayed the same, it has gotten structurally more complicated for Hamilton, because he now needs to beat not one Mercedes, but two consistently, while running a car that is down on straight-line deployment compared to both. Here is the specific title math. There are 14 races remaining after Silverstone. The sprint at Silverstone adds 8 bonus points to the weekend, 4 for the sprint race, 4 for pole in the sprint shootout, in addition to the regular Grand Prix. For Hamilton to close the gap to Antonelli to within striking distance by Hungary, he needs to extract points at every opportunity. A sprint win and a race win at Silverstone, his most likely double result scenario, cuts 46 points to 21, assuming Antonelli finishes second in both events. That is achievable. It is also the best case scenario. Hamilton knows better than anyone what best case looks like versus what race conditions actually deliver. The realistic scenario involves Russell also wanting a home win, Antonelli arriving at Silverstone in the fastest car in Formula 1 with 6 of 8 wins this season, and Hamilton driving an SF26 that performs brilliantly in Sector 2 but bleeds time on every straight in Sectors 1 and 3. Ferrari's development window matters here in a precise way. They have one ADUO token remaining. It covers the turbocharger. When it arrives, Zandvoort, Monza, or somewhere after the summer, it addresses the icy component of the power deficit. But the ERS deployment curve problem that Hamilton described in Austria is a software and hardware interaction that does not arrive with a single upgrade. It is the result of how Ferrari's energy store is calibrated across a full straight, and closing that gap to Mercedes is a project that takes months of dyno time, not a single race weekend. Hamilton knows this. He said after Austria that he does not know if the full gap can be recovered in a single season. He said it takes months of work on the dyno to develop components and test their reliability. This is a driver at the peak of his intelligence, managing expectations, his own, the team's, and the audience's, while simultaneously pushing Maranello as hard as he can. The last time Ferrari entered a summer phase of a season still hunting for a power unit fix, still with significant mechanical limitations, was the second half of 2022. Leclerc had led the championship by 46 points after Bahrain. The Ferrari power unit began failing. The development roadmap did not deliver fast enough. Verstappen won 15 of the remaining 19 races. The points gap that seemed manageable became impossible. Hamilton is not Leclerc, and 2026's constraint is different. It is a deployment software problem, not an engine that physically breaks down. But the shape is the same. A car that is elite in some conditions, limited in others, chasing a fix that arrives behind the championship calendar. Before I give you the verdict, there is a second story from this Austrian weekend that connects directly to everything we have just discussed. On Saturday, Vasseur said something publicly that he almost never says. His exact words, "The coin always falls on the right side for Mercedes." That story, about what happened in qualifying, and about a Ferrari innovation the FIA decided to ban the very same weekend, drops on Tuesday. It changes how you read the power fight entirely. Keep that in mind as I give you the verdict now. If what the Austrian telemetry shows about Ferrari's deployment curve holds at Silverstone, and Hamilton's own words make it clear that it will, then the championship picture looks materially different to what the paddock was saying 1 week ago, when Barcelona's euphoria was still the dominant narrative. Ferrari's Austria result was not a failure of preparation or strategy. It was a data point, a precise one. The ADUO upgrade they brought to the Red Bull ring did exactly what it was designed to do. It closed the ice-up deficit incrementally. What it revealed in doing so is that Ferrari's power problem is not one problem, it is two. The internal combustion engine gap and the ERS deployment curve are separate issues, on separate development timelines, and only one of them is addressed by the ADUO framework. The other one follows Hamilton to Silverstone next weekend. Here is my verdict. Hamilton is going to push hard at Silverstone. He will have the crowd. He will have the motivation. The SF26 is a brilliant chassis, and he is one of the finest drivers Formula One has ever seen. He may win, but the title fight does not turn on whether he wins at Silverstone. It turns on whether Ferrari can consistently close the ERS deployment gap to Mercedes across 6 or 7 race weekends before the turbo upgrade arrives. And right now, based on what Austria's data showed, they cannot. The gap exists, it is measurable, and the next upgrade that addresses the real problem is not coming until after summer. Hamilton is chasing Antonelli in a car that is fast in sectors 2 but bleeds in sectors 1 and 3. That is the actual state of the championship. Here is the debate I want you to settle in the comments. Ferrari's second ADU credit, the new turbocharger, arrives post-summer. If it delivers a full, clean step at Zandvoort or Monza, does Hamilton still have enough races left to close the championship? Or has Austria already made the title math too steep? Give me your exact calculation below. Not just yes or no, but the specific race and the specific points gap where you think the window either opens or closes. Subscribe now, because on Tuesday we are going deep on the FIA story Vasseur refused to stay silent about. That video connects directly to the power fight we just walked through. You need both pieces to see the full picture. And if you want to understand why Barcelona felt so different to Austria, the full breakdown is on screen right now.